Britain Planet, and welcome to China Insight, where we look closely at the latest issues affecting this rapidly changing country. China's first homegrown regional jet is taking off, having finally gained the official stamp of approval to carry passengers after a series of production setbacks. Chengdu Airlines is the first carrier to take flight in the ARJ21-700. The 90-seat aircraft was developed by the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, or COMAC. And today I'm joined by Gao Haotong of COMAC to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for the invitation.
I want you to start off by telling us all about this aircraft and what makes it so special.
The ARJ21 airplane is the first regional jet of China which designed independently and got the type certification of CAAC.
How long did it take from when it was just an idea, the ARJ21, from now, when they're finally taking off?
Oh, it's over 10 years.
And that's mostly because you couldn't obtain the CAAC certificate?
Yes, that's the most difficult part for our airplane. But the most important is we want this airplane safety.
Okay, well, China Insight reporter Martin Pollard travelled to Shanghai to see the ARJ21-700 for himself. He filed this report. Let's take a look.
This is, on the one hand, the story of an airplane, the ARJ21. On the other, it's a chance for us to consider the maturing of a company, state-owned COMAC, which may become a big player in the global civil aviation sector in the years to come.
For decades, China has wanted to realise its dream of producing commercial civilian aircraft up to an international standard. In the 1970s, they built several Y-10s, including the one standing behind me.
9月26日，运时进行了首次试飞。经过10年奋战，我国自行研制的大型客机终于腾空飞上了蓝天。
运时70年开始这个立项研制的。 比这个空客A300还要早2年。
170 hours of test flights over 4 years took the Y-10 to cities across the country, including Lhasa in Tibet. However, only 3 were ever built, and in 1984, the entire Y-10 project was scrapped. The official reason was a lack of funds. Then in 2002, following the launch of the 10th five-year plan, the ARJ21 project was initiated.
Why is China trying to build civilian aircraft?
我们需要飞机，特别需要大量的民用飞机去搞这个运输。另外一方面呢，我们这个国家工业需要从一个低端制造逐步转型到高端制造，它可以带动众多的产业发展，比如说冶金、材料、标准制造。 这个的电子电器的设计等等这些。
COMAC's plush new R&D base in Pudong has become a popular stop-off for the country's leaders.
我们这么一个大国，我们肯定要有自己，而且在全世界先进水平的飞机制造业。
But the ARJ21 has been beset by delays. And still, there is no set date for when it will enter the market and when large-scale production can commence. In an effort to speed up output and ensure quality, COMAC has brought in experts like Jack Lee, formerly at GE's aviation division.
Actually, the aircraft during the design period, the COMAC already took the advanced of technology in the world, and then work with our suppliers, which is famous world-class manufacturer or suppliers, and tell them what we need. So look like the name is from our suppliers, but it protects some of the advanced technology already used, we call the cuts, off-shift. Some is we ask them to design. So combined together to install our aircraft.
Lee tells me that around 70% of the parts for most passenger planes are provided by international suppliers. The ARJ21 is a 90-seat regional jet designed for short-haul flights. It's entering a crowded market with competition especially from Brazil's Embraer and Canada's Bombardier.
Is the ARJ21 any different to the other planes out there in the market?
飞机设计呢，大部分都是这个针对于平原机场。那么它要去上高原呢，它首先就是要对重量进行一个降低，比如通俗讲呢就是减载。比如说它这个飞机以前能够满客情况下是拉150个人，那么它为了上高原呢，它就可以把这个人数降低到100人，对吧？那么但是呢，这样做的这个经济性就会变差。那么我们这款飞机呢，实际上要求就是我们在高温的条件下能够满载起飞。我们主要是选择了一款推力比较大的发动机 CF34-CA。
Yet almost all of the ARJ21's main competitors have opted for Pratt & Whitney's brand new geared turbofan engine, one that is said to have over 10% better fuel efficiency. But Comac are confident because their planes will be cheaper because they're a local company in a country which is experiencing high demand.
你现在我们中国70%以上的这些机场应该是属于支线机场，支线机场，但是我们现在没有合适的飞机，那我可能只能用波音737或者320这么大的飞机去飞，大马拉小车，用支线飞机去飞这个航段，成本能减少35%以上。
It's March the 17th. We've come to Nantong Airport just outside Shanghai to join the ARJ21's core international suppliers on a special demonstration flight.
Number is 38, it's on window side.
Okay. So the ARJ21, like the other Comac plane, is supposed to be more comfortable, more economical and more environmentally friendly. It's also supposed to be more spacious. They've said that it's 0.4 meters wider. I'm not quite sure I can notice this, but maybe we'll see on this flight.
These suppliers provide parts for different plane manufacturers around the world. When asked what they think of the ARJ21, most seemed a little tongue-tied. However, they have good reason to be on their best behaviour. After the ARJ21, Comac has plans for several more larger planes that may make an even bigger impact on the market.
I'm very proud to be on board of this plane because for me it is the first time I'm on the ARJ21.
Well, the Comacs are now coming out with, they were some of the ones that are coming out earlier with some of the new engine technology for the fuel efficiencies. Some of the other ones are playing catch up with them, and then they've been a little bit behind, so some of the other guys have caught up, but in general, the plane should be very successful.
I'm sure that once it proves itself, it will be able to compete along with the Airbus, Boeings, and also some of the smaller other manufacturers like Embraer, for example.
How many ARJ21 planes have you sold so far?
现在订单是308架，18家客户就是在国内国外。
Is the government going to require these airline companies to buy your planes?
当然，政府都希望自己的可能出来的产品能卖得好，但是它主导不了这个事，因为民间还是一个比较开放的这种市场中。
Chengdu Airlines, a state-run airline partly owned by Comac, is to receive the first batch of ARJ21s. Other orders have mostly come from domestic airlines, although 2014 saw the Republic of Congo put down an order for 3 planes.
So, from GE, I would like to thank Comac for the opportunity to fly on this airplane. It has been a long time coming. 10, 12 years since we signed the initial agreement, and this is a very important milestone that we're all here together. And together we will continue to improve the aircraft and hope it has a long future ahead of it. Thank you.
So why spend all this money and manpower on creating this aircraft when, you know, China could just buy from overseas?
Chinese population numbers are huge. According to China's civil aviation industry development plan, it will let 95% of people get the airline service. That means until 2020, the total passenger transport volume will be increased to 700 million person times. So according to prediction, in future 20 years, Chinese market will need over 5,500 new airplanes. It will total cost $670 billion. Yes.
But still, why spend the money? Why, you know, this took many years to develop. Is it worth it?
Yes, surely it's worth it.
And is this made in China? Completely made in China?
Yes, it's completely made in China.
Why is that important?
The ARJ21 airplane has the proprietary intellectual property rights. Totally, completely. It represents in some area like general design, the system integration, and the airworthiness compliance. All these three parts is totally researched, designed, and conducted by ourselves.
If you're working on this project, which is supposed to be for China, it's very important for China, it helps that you're state-owned, is that right?
Yes, because the civil project, the civil airplane project, is kind of like the important, significant symbol of the Chinese strategy transformations. And it's part of the China dream. Who don't want to involve into the China dream?
You sound very excited about it.
Yes.
Yes. Was it always your dream to be involved in COMAC?
As I always dreamed to be a pilot, but you know, but I can support a pilot, I think.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's part like my dream is realized. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll be joined by aviation analyst Guo Yufeng. Welcome back to China Insight. We've been discussing China's first homegrown regional aircraft, the ARJ21-700, and I'm now joined by aviation analyst Guo Yufeng. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Have you been on one of these ARJ21-700s?
No, I have not.
You haven't?
Yeah.
What are your impressions of it from what you've read up?
Well, the ARJ21 aircraft is a competing aircraft with many regional jets in the world. Starting with B, with Brazil. Brazil have Embraer, and they are producing ERJs. R is Russia. Russia has a Sukhoi Superjets 100. And then C, which is China. So China has an ARJ. And then two other countries actually are developing or producing RJs now. One of them is Canada. Bombardier is producing CRJs. And then Japan is now having a MRJ program.
So where does COMAC's ARJ21-700 fit in with all these other competitors? How competitive is it?
I think for the global market, it's very competitive. But for the Chinese market, I think ARJ has a captured domestic market.
Right. It doesn't actually directly compete with Airbus and Boeing, does it, this aircraft?
No, this ARJ aircraft doesn't directly because it's for the 70 to 90 seats type of aircraft, whereas Boeing and Airbus are developing larger aircrafts.
So you mentioned that more people are mobile, and especially in China, more people are taking to the skies. Sometimes it's cheaper to grab a plane ticket than grab a train ticket. So I want to ask you more about safety. Martin Pollard investigated the aircraft safety, the ARJ21-700 safety, a little closer, so let's first see what he found out.
Many people are afraid of flying, yet we're around 100 times more likely to die in a car than on a plane. Flying is safer, partly because of the stringent safety and quality control standards for aircraft. COMAC is proud of its relatively young staff. Many are recent graduates of the country's top aviation and engineering colleges. But for some, this youthful element has its drawbacks.
As you know, those young people here, they're working very hard. However, they don't have experience before. They have to learn how to do this quality control. They drill the hole, install the parts here. Then our quality check people will look at each step and then use the checklist. The quality check people will stamp their stamps, make sure each stamps follow the procedure, did the job.
The ARJ21 obtained its CAAC certificate last December. The award was the result of over 2,900 flights with 5,000 hours in China and abroad in all conditions. Since COMAC was only established in 2008, taking over from another state-owned aviation body, its managers have had to adapt quickly to the targets set by their country's leaders. In charge of getting the plane's airworthiness verified is Deputy Chief Designer Xu Youcheng.
ARJ 因为是第一次，是严格意义上的按照我们的运输的飞机的适航标准的要求进行严格的验证。
The cold weather flight testing was a particularly big challenge for the COMAC team. To pass, planes had to show no signs of damage or poor performance in even the most extreme conditions.
那个适用条款就有398条，我们的那个符合性验证的项目有300项，我们的试飞的项目，加上局方的审定试飞的项目，有接近500科目。
0 degrees Celsius or freezing is like these clouds. Okay.
After cloud, I mean.
Yes.
But how to identify the altitude? What is the appropriate altitude?
That's 3,200 in here, 3,700 in here.
The ARJ21 completed part of its test flying in the US. In doing so, it became the first turbofan regional jet developed by China to both fly and carry out flight tests in special weather conditions abroad. Xu Youcheng's team meticulously recorded every detail of ththese flights.
那么，经过符合性验证产生的符合性验证报告，达到了4318份。这是一个什么概念呢？这个工作呢，你可以通过这个来，能够体现出来，就是我们那个符合性报告，如果是堆积在一块，它达到了有10层楼那么高。
Above all, COMAC want their plane to obtain US's Federal Aviation Administration or FAA certification. Only with this can the ARJ21 fly anywhere in the world, meaning airlines in Western countries may become interested. But COMAC have had huge trouble obtaining the FAA certificate.
Is there a difference between the FAA and the CAAC certificate?
FAA 的那个审查人员站在中国民航局审查人员的后边进行引注审查。他的引注审查，他是在当时审查的情况下，他不发表任何的意见，他就看你中国审查人员有没有这个能力审查飞机，看你审查的结果是不是符合适航的要求，通过这个来判断你中国民航局审查人员的能力。
What percentage of the ARJ21 still needs to be recognised by FAA in order to obtain their certificate?
概念来说，我就20%这么个情况。那么这个我们还在据理力争，已经申请了，现在是我们是2018年，目标取得 FAA 的证。
Yet insiders say customer support may be the biggest hurdle of all for COMAC. For when airlines buy planes, they're not just buying the plane, but a whole package which includes a guarantee of, for example, the best training, regular maintenance, as well as other services should things go wrong.
Why is providing this service very difficult?
We already have the ability to design and manufacture, but we have never to build a system to support the airline or support the customer how to operate the aircraft.
How long have you been training pilots for, and in that time, how many pilots have you trained?
I worked for Chinese more than 15 years and worked for COMAC 5 years. and I trained more than 3,000 pilots. Most of them from China, but also from Japan, American, Australia.
In the last few years, there's been a lot of coverage in the news about plane accidents. What causes plane accidents?
70% of the accident is related with a pilot or a crew. The hardest part is landing. That's what we are going to do now.
Okay.
And release the aircraft.
30, 20, 10.
Admittedly, with the help of Mr. Wang, I managed quite a smooth landing.
Auto throttle disengage. Auto throttle disengage.
Normal landing.
Ah, well, I'm very happy about that.
Not a bad landing from Martin, indeed. So I want to ask you, why did it take so long? You know, we had the COMAC representative on before, giving his case to why it did take so long. He said, he mentioned that there were, problems in research, problems in the test flights. Could you shed some light on this?
Sure. As I think you can see from the clip, very interesting clip, by the way, it shows when ARJ test pilots and engineers were searching for ice. It's very heroic sometimes if you think about test pilots. They actually seek the extreme conditions.
It's extremely dangerous.
And yeah, actually, I think they were on low fuel when they were searching about a cloud in Alaska.
On purpose? They were on
purpose,
low fuel?
they were chasing the cloud.
Right.
Because normally a commercial pilot would avoid the cloud.
Of course,
But
yeah.
for testing the aircraft, they actually are seeking and chasing the cloud. So I think those are very amazing stories. When they finally find a perfect cloud, they want to fly into it and test how the aircraft perform.
How did it fare in these kind of tests?
I think it passed the CAAC's certification requirements.
Eventually. But it did take a long time.
Yes.
Why is that, do you think?
For example, just to give you a sense of comparison, Boeing aircraft company has about 250 test pilots. But I think the COMAC and CAAC together has about 100 people working on the test flights.
You're talking about a far smaller scale here.
Yes, smaller people working on the flight testing program. And then also it's the first time that CAAC and COMAC going through such a program. So everybody are learning as events happen. So it naturally takes longer.
Why is it that the ARJ still doesn't have the FAA certificate? And why does it need it?
Why does it need it, to answer your second question, I think to sell this aircraft to the global markets, the FAA and the European EASA standards are the gold standards in the world.
To their respective regional markets?
To their respective regional markets, yes. There were 53% of these fatal accidents were related to pilot errors. And then 9% were related to other human errors, such as other human can relate to, for example, traffic controllers or maintenance personnel errors. And the weather reason was about 12%, and then 20% was mechanical errors.
Some of the main complaints that passengers in China have is that there are too many delays, cancellations, planes being diverted to other towns, other cities. Who is to blame? Is anyone to blame? And how can this problem be overcome?
Sure, there's many people that are involved in the aviation industry. So first of all, sometimes you have to blame the weather. So sometimes when passengers are not realizing is actually there was a weather problem en route. So in between these two cities, there is a thunderstorm going on.
So why can't you just divert the plane in that case?
The civil airspace is comprised about 25% of the country's sky.
Right.
So the routes are relatively fixed when it comes to airline operation.
Right. So if any change really needs to be made along that route, presumably the plane doesn't take off at all. Is that right?
Yes. So a lot of times that happens.
So how much will be opened up to civil airspace?
Well, that question is up to the country's top leaders to answer. Currently, it's about 25%. Before, it was less than 25%. It was about 20%. So it's gradually growing.
So when did that 5% open up?
I think it's recently several years. The CAAC is working closely with the China's Air Force to gradually find more paths in the sky to link city pairs. So more and more routes are being developed.
Well, that sounds like good news for Chinese travellers. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll be asking people on the streets of Beijing how they feel about flying a Chinese-made airplane. Stay with us. Welcome back to China Insight. I've been talking about the safety of China's new ARJ21-700 with my guest Guo Yufeng, an aviation expert. We asked several people on the street how they feel about hopping on board a Chinese-made plane. Let's have a look at the responses we got.
怕不怕飞机的安全？
怕，特别怕。
我不太怕。
原来我觉得很安全的，现在我有点害怕。
现在出的事故太多了。
那就是等到你可以乘坐这个飞机的时候，你会愿意坐吗？
愿意，
愿意。
当然愿意。
不敢。
那先看看，如果有评价的话，先看一下吧。
我愿意啊，我愿意啊。其实我觉得中国制造业还是在不断的发展当中，我觉得我们应该去相信我们自己的国产的东西。
我不愿意。
为什么这么说？
可能对那个国产飞机没有信心吧。
当然，这个当然能接受了，是我们自己国家造出来的飞机。
我们相信，
我们相信质量是好的。
Are you surprised by these responses?
No, actually not. But to respond to your questions about safety, I think several things should be considered by the normal citizens and everybody else.
To reassure these people?
To reassure them, where a lot of foreigners who are foreign suppliers representative were on board a demonstration flight in China as well in this aircraft.
So you're saying that reassures people further?
I think that helps people understand this aircraft is comprised of many famous companies' products, and these companies are
companies who have been making these parts for many years.
For many years and successfully supplying to Airbus and Boeing, and also ABIC itself, who's a shareholder and supplier to COMAC.
Of course, there have been several huge accidents within the last year. These obviously compound people's fears. Could you weigh in on that a little bit? Are problems, has the situation got worse? Are our skies too crowded?
So both of these unfortunate Malaysian airline accidents, they were not caused by the aircraft's issues.
Well, in the case of MH370, we're still not sure.
We're not sure, yes. So back to the historical perspective from the 70s and 80s, that the global airline accidents are actually decreasing. So less and less people die every year, and then growing traffic, increasing traffic every year. So the percentage of casualties in flying is decreasing dramatically. And as an industry insider, I fly every day almost. So safety is always on my alert, but it's never a big issue in my heart.
Okay, well, hopefully that goes somewhere in reassuring travellers. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today, but thank you so much for that discussion. If you have any comments or questions, email us at chinainsight@cctv.com or find us on Facebook, Weibo and WeChat. And we'll see you next time for more reports and discussion on China out of China. Goodbye.